Okay, much like Vicki, I'm not a public speaker, so I'll be reading my paper. Okay, so on this day we drove to a new church. It was a church plant that Rodrigo, the link field director, had started. Scenery is much the same in Niger: dirt roads, trash everywhere, animals eating the trash, people in cars obeying no traffic laws, and people on foot about giving me a heart attack every few seconds, worrying that they're going to run into our car. And as we pull up, we are warmly greeted by a few adults and about 10 children with sweet smiles on their faces. The church consisted of 4 concrete walls and no roof, with 3 wooden benches. We started our time off with the kids with a book about Jesus, and Vicki read the book as Adem translated. After we read the story, Adem talked to the kids more about Jesus, and 3 of those boys accepted Jesus into their heart. So after that exciting time, a 10-year-old boy volunteered to tell us about his testimony. He began to tell us that he was having trouble selling soap. He sold soap to support his family. The boy told us that he had become very desperate. He came to the church and had the church pray with him. Rodrigo, the pastor the pastor of the church and the link field director, told the little boy, "If God doesn't work a miracle in your life, you don't have to come back, because that means God is not here." I suppose some of you, when I just said that, you might have had a moment of gasping in your mind, or even thinking, how could he have the audacity to have such boldness? After going on this mission with God to Africa, God has made it clear to me why it is easy for some of us to be bold and some of us not. Us Americans are full of pride, arrogance, and self-worth. Nigerians have very little to be prideful about. They are more willing to lay it out there. The thought that keeps coming back to me, and I'm speaking more to myself than anything, is how many of us as believers are willing to be bold like this in the name of Jesus Christ? How many of us are willing to speak truth and love boldly in others' lives? How many of us are willing to step out of the boat and onto the water and walk to Jesus? After Rodrigo told us this about the little boy, after the little boy told us this, Rodrigo told us the little boy had not come back to church for weeks. And then the little boy returned about 3 weeks later, and he said he was unable to come to church because he was selling so much soap he wasn't able to make it. The little boy was overjoyed at the miracle that was worked in his life, and he began to tell others about his story and the miracle. So the little boy had a friend that was mute, and so the little boy asked his mute friend to come to church and asked the church members to pray over his friend. And so the little boy came, they prayed over him, and about 2 weeks later, after the boy had come and went, the little boy was able to speak. Although the mute boy's family would not allow the boy to come back, we're not really sure of the reason, other than we just know that they didn't believe in the same God that we serve. So God is in the business of making miracles happen. Are we bold enough to trust that he wants to work one in our lives? Here are a few verses that spoke to me while preparing for this topic. Matthew 19:24. Again, I tell you, it is easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than for someone who is rich to enter the kingdom of God. In Matthew 5:3, blessed are the poor in spirit, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. And up next is Mandy.